Hi everyone, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Trade Australia Show. I'm your host, Lawrence Christoffelsz. Trade Australia Show is brought to you by Australian Trade Logistics Corporation and all of our national partners you see on the screens behind me. Today's episode is really exciting. It's about India and Australia relations and economic opportunities. We all know how such a big market like India has got so much to offer, but they're also looking at Australia in a whole new different light as well. So on today's episode, we've got some fantastic guests who are all experts in their own right. Tune in, watch and learn about how you can navigate these two markets and really take advantage of the amazing spike in opportunities that are coming forward in the next coming weeks, months and years. To kick off the episode, I've got the pleasure of being joined by Bharadwaj, who's the Editor-in-Chief of the Australia Today, an online multicultural magazine who specialises in India-Australia relations. Thanks so much for joining us, Jay. Jay, with your experience, how do you describe the business and cultural relationship between Australia and India at the moment?
Pleasure to be with you, Lawrence. I see it ever growing. It couldn't be better time to be partnering with India for Australian companies, Australian people. We are just seeing a different level of that. But let me give you a backgrounder. Where do we come from? The Indian East India Company used to be the sole trade proprietor to Australia. From any business from Australia to Australia, it used to be through East India Company, and everything used to come from Kolkata port and Madras port to Australia and used to go to different parts of the world. So that kind of business trade relationship India comes from. Now let's fast forward 2 centuries, I should say. In 2021, we are seeing most enthusiastic people who want to do trade with India, who want to explore India, and it's not one way. I must say it's two-way thing. People are very enthusiastic, even though in last year and a half we are close to the world, but when I call India to different people I talk to, they say students want to come, they can't wait to come to India. Now it has gone beyond Commonwealth, cricket, curry. Yes, of course, they are the biggest ties to relationship to Australia and India. But I feel people are more eager to do business, and the kind of collaboration every day you are hearing the news. We'll probably talk into the program more about business, but I can't see anything holding back to Australia and India, and I want to see it leap forward. What we have done in last 10 years, say from 2010 to 2021. Probably next 5 years will take us a couple of decades ahead in our relationship.
Yeah, I think that's really true, Jay. Some great comments there, because you're right. I think we're just on a really fast trajectory now between the relationship. Right. You touched on something that I was going to ask you about. So, the closing of Australian borders for the last 18 months or so has challenged not just the India community with obviously the students and so forth, but how do you feel that's impacted the relationship between Australia and India? I know that India had a really bad situation with COVID. It's still there, but they've actually got on with work and back to life. How do you see things between the relationships with the border lockdowns?
I would not particularly comment that it has soared or something, but yes, Australia has locked itself up, rightly so, for protecting people like you and me. I don't want to get sick, neither do you. So whatever Australian government has done, we do understand that. But the wording, the way we communicate our decisions could be different, and could be in better taste, I suppose. Yes, when Australian government, federal government announced that anybody coming from India will be jailed, that was, at least it sounded very immature to me. You could use different words and tell people, communicate your message differently. That was in bad taste, and a lot of people were not happy with that. Okay, just brush it aside for a moment. Now comes the need part. In last 18 months, people like you and me are not able to go to India or come back from there, but a lot has been done on government to government basis and C to C level. A lot has been done. I mean, I have not seen any government which has done more work than this federal Australian government with India. And I'm not telling you just because of the words. I'm telling you because 12 comprehensive arrangements have been done with India in terms of education, in terms of defense, in terms of trade. So it's a massive plethora of work which in last 18 months, because we are on Zoom now. You just don't need to go. So everyone, it has made work so easy for those bureaucrats and politicians who really want to do that work with India. And I'm seeing the results. Probably next few months will bring more good news to us.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, I agree with all those sentiments. I think that definitely has been some unfortunate wording of some of those descriptions with the border closures. And I think that also that there's so much, despite all that, so much opportunity still that has been cultivated, even with the borders closed. But you're right. I think that the sectors now, Australia and India, are really starting to pick up speed and move up a few gears when it comes to the business relationships. And that takes me to the next question around the FTA, or the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. And I think there's definitely a lot of excitement from the people I speak to here in Australia with your relationships, and you've got that unique ability to really read the vibes between the Australian Indian community and even the Indian community over there with who've got Australian relations. Is there a lot of excitement around the upcoming or the potential to have that agreement signed off?
The undercurrent is very strong, Lawrence. I must say, the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, CSP, probably people outside are not realizing what it is going to bring to them. There are a few sectors which are important to India. There are another bundle of issues which Australia is keeping close to its heart. And if I'm not wrong, let me say that the last information which we had is most likely Prime Minister Scott Morrison is going to visit India in the first half of January, or it could be late December. I'm not sure how they are going to fix Christmas. Is before Christmas or they push it to January, but that is happening. Yeah. And what is it bringing to us? That is bringing more collaboration in terms of education. India is a vast population, and it's young population, as you know, and they need training. They need training which matches the world's needs. So, and Australia is a place which can provide it. And another very important thing is we need it for 400 million people. Just understanding that word 400 million youth to be skilled is massive for Australia. Now, another thing is the trouble with China. So our mineral and resource sector is looking for a market which is as huge as China. So if we spin around the globe, who is that? That is India. Yeah. So that sector is very important. And as you're seeing news in last 4 or 5 months, the supply chain is disrupted in every sector. So Australia want to keep that mineral and resources sector intact, that supply chain doesn't break. And Europe and America is also very eager to have some more resources on their end that India could substitute that. And earth element has been one of the most important one. And now Australia has up its game. Last announcement by Prime Minister Scott Morrison, when they talk about hydrogen and renewables, it has changed the game to its head.
Yeah.
I don't know, the minute this announcement happens, collaboration or whatever you want to call it, with India on hydrogen front, it will, right now, I think we have some $30 billion trade between two countries. It will take it to 100 plus.
Wow.
So you can imagine what it means for India and what it means for Australia.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And I wanted to ask you with that final question around let's say the diversion from that China focus because of those recent trade tensions. It doesn't look like it's going to improve anytime soon. And I think you're right. There's been, in my opinion, a lot of complacency by Australian companies and even in many of the initiatives of the government to really have too much focus on China in the past. And I think now it's a great wake-up call to see what other markets are available. And as you say, India is probably the only other market that can take that sort of volume and that sort of compensate for that type of change in the market diversification. So it is great to see that so many sectors are really rethinking India and really starting to refocus on the opportunities that are there. And it's definitely going to be one of the questions I want to ask you, Jay, again, with you've got that rare experience of being here in Australia, you've got the Indian heritage, you've got the business knowledge between both markets. What tips and advice, what are the type of things you tell Australian companies, what are the things that they need to understand about how to do business in India so they can succeed in that type of massive market?
See, there cannot be one way of dealing with different sectors, but one thing I would definitely say that Indian people or Indian market culture or Indian corporate rooms are very open to understand. However, please do not think that that place is unique, like China, or that place is like Europe, or that place is Vietnam, or Japan per se. It's a different place. You have to understand, and business is important for everyone, but people are. So, most people I was working in Japan for a couple of years. They used to say when a Japanese company manager says, I'll think about it, that means he's never going to come back to you. The same thing is with India. Please do not hurt them in terms of egos.
Yeah.
Boardrooms are very critical. They will listen to you. They will respect you. They will take you for parties. They will give you a massive welcome. But if you do not treat them as equals, they will not do business with you. So please respect the local cultural, social ethics. You will be very successful. Any company, there are a number of companies who have done that, and local leadership, local hirements are very important for India. If you think that you can just land up there and take your team and you can be successful, please hire local expertise. And that goes without saying that Australians are doing so. I mean, 3 important companies who are successful in India right now have built that cohesive team of Australian expertise and local expertise. And that's the way to go forward, Lawrence.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Jay. It's very true. You need to have people on the ground who can navigate the whole cultural and business ways of doing things over there, and it definitely fast tracks and strengthens those relationships for sure. It's been absolutely great to have you on the show, Jay. Looking forward to having more work with you on IETV in the future. Congratulations on all the great work you're doing with Australia Today, and look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Good to be with you.
Thanks, Jay. So you just heard from Jay Bharadwaj, who's the editor-in-chief for the Australia Today. Join us after this break, and we'll be joined by another special guest talking about the massive and important market that is India on today's episode of Australia Trade Australia. Take care. Bye. So you've just heard from Jay Bharadwaj, who's the editor-in-chief at the Australian Today. As you've heard, there's some great opportunities that are really taking a lot of speed and momentum now into the Australian-India relationship in the market. Stick around after this short message from our partners. We're going to be joined again by Gitesh Agarwal, all the way from India, about some more in-depth information about how you can succeed in the Indian market. See you very soon.
Hi, I'm Adam Lane from Trade Plus 24. a Melbourne-based fintech specialising in SME lending, and this week I'm providing your finance update. Well, what an awesome episode so far, talking about the trade corridor between Australia and India. And on the back of that, I thought what I'd do is spend this week's finance update talking about one of our customers that uses this corridor extensively for their business. They're a Melbourne-based IT services business with employees in both Melbourne and India. They came to us on the back of a real growth trajectory, and they were struggling to finance their working capital. They were generating more invoices, but the invoice payment terms were longer than the time they had to pay their employees both in Australia and India. So what we did is we put a working capital solution in place for them that allowed them to leverage their invoices to get advances on those invoices that they had outstanding to blue chip companies both here and across Southeast Asia, to be able to pay their staff on time and allow more work to come in. Because we specialise in overseas invoices and allowing customers to be able to leverage those invoices, Trade Plus 24's line of credit solution was ideal for them. They didn't have to change their bank accounts. They were given competitive interest rates, and this business really helps boost both the Australian and Indian economy. The team now employ 50 people in the subcontinent, and that allows them to be able to provide services to hundreds of companies and also pitch for business in both Southeast Asia and Australia. If a line of credit solution like this could be of assistance to you or anyone that you know, please get in contact with any of the Trade Plus 24 team via our LinkedIn page. That's all for now. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Now I've got the absolute pleasure to be joined by Gitesh Agarwal, all the way from India. Gitesh is an international trade professional in all senses of the word. And Gitesh, I know you've got a whole new business now with global ambitions. So please tell us about that role, as well as your other hats that you wear as well between India and global business.
Thank you, Lawrence. It's good afternoon, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be with friends back in Australia, sitting in India, having been with the Australian government for almost 13 years after I finished my role as the Commissioner of Queensland for South Asia. I have stayed back in India, courtesy COVID and courtesy some personal decisions until borders allow us to come back. I currently consult through a new outfit called Global Ambitions and Golden Business Advisory. We do provide strategies for companies to enter India, understand India, and I also consult the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council from the UK, which is representing the Commonwealth of Nations as their first country director here. So multiple hats, Lawrence.
Yeah.
International trade is my bread and butter, and I understand it very well. And I'm sitting in a very exciting market.
Absolutely. I'm really privileged and delighted to have you on the show again, Gitesh, because it's been, this whole, ramp up now throughout Australia and India relations. It's really starting to take a steep turn for the better, where people are really getting excited. And that's one of the things I want to ask you about. I mean, this whole episode is to celebrate those trade, economic, cultural relations between these two countries. So no one better than yourself to talk about why it's so exciting. Please tell us, what you find so exciting about those two markets.
Thank you, Lawrence. Having been in this bridge between India and Australia for almost, out of my 23 years of experience, almost 13 years have been with the federal government and the state government. And I can say it without two thoughts that this is the most exciting time between these two countries' relationship. It's politically closer than ever before. It's strategically closer than ever before, and it's aiming to be economically more amplified than before. And you could call it the side effect of COVID, but somehow the changing geopolitical dynamics and Australia's quick recognition to look at India as the larger growing partner in this strategic framework of Indo-Pacific. It's bordered on a very good, I would say, overture, aggression, intent by both the governments, especially Australia. And if you see India's participation in Quad from defense perspective, the visits by Minister Dehan recently to India, and having spent almost 3 hours with our Indian Minister Piyush Goyal, which has never been precedented, it shows the growing bonhomie shows the growing need, if I may use the underlying word. It shows the growing intent to come closer than ever before. And this time, not just as transactional partners, but strategic partners.
Very true. I think it's really exciting, as you said, that there's so many things that are really starting to take shape after seems like such a long time, because everyone knows and has known for many, many decades how important India is. But I think from an Australian perspective, they're probably a little bit, focused on other markets. But what's, in your opinion, Gitesh, and as I said earlier, you've got a unique skill set and perspective between both markets. What's your understanding of being the biggest challenges so far?
Thank you, Lawrence. That's a question very close to my heart, because I've batted for Australia for so long, and being here in this market, the opportunities are just too amplified and visible that if I had my way, I could just put all quite a bit of my eggs in this basket here. I mean, the world has realized and recognized India not just as a market, which is going to be a growing market because of the youth demographics, but also its technological leaps that it has taken in the last few years, domestically, not just globally. And with a stable government at the center and their intentions to augment manufacturing. At the same time, when dependency on the North Asian neighbor, China in this case, was needing to be corrected in global supply dynamics, India is sitting at a very good time in its destiny right now. If you ask me, the biggest challenge has been Australia and India relationship has been very transactional till now. It's not been strategic. The government has done its best, and trust me, I've been on that side of the story. They've done their best to create the bonhomie, the MOUs, the visits, the relationships, whether it's at the federal level, DFAT, the high commissioners. Government has done its best, but it's the businesses that are going to make money at the end of the day. They have to really rise to the occasion. And that's where, if I may be guilty of saying it, the literacy of India is actually missing in the Australian corporate boardrooms and even the academia, even though they benefit so much from Indian students' population going there. Also, the lack of Indian studies in most of the industry and academic institutions could be one. The lens that Australia has seen India with the cricket curry, I think that needs to change. It's totally a different paradigm. The other interesting thing, Lawrence, is India has traditionally looked west because America, Europe, they have been its traditional larger partners and markets. And guess what? Australia still also looks west, and of course, North Asia. So that's an interesting dichotomy that they didn't look at each other in that perspective. Another thing that I'm very conscious that I'm also trying to do in my consulting is the needs analysis. What happens is when you have a need and you've identified it as a marketer, you fulfill that need with your product service and keep the relationship going so that the business keeps expanding. Now, if you look at the mix of the business from India to Australia and Australia to India, from Australia to India has traditionally been resources, the coal, the LNG, and in services, it's been education and travel. That's the majority mix. And if you look at from India to Australia, it's been what? Handicrafts, refined petroleum, some automotive components, and technology. But it's too tiny.
Yeah.
There's so much that can be offered from Australia to India. And when I talk to Indian companies here who reach out to us to make their entry into Australia, they do recognize two things. One, it is a small market compared to Europe or America. But number two, it's a very well-regulated market. It's got good frameworks, and it's a good premium market.
Yeah.
So that's another opportunity. So the challenge has been, to summarize it, it's been transactional. It has to be strategic based on needs analysis. They have both traditionally looked west. It is time, and they are looking towards each other, but at least at the government level. And at some point, they have to find a way to fulfill each other's gaps. India is a big agri producer, but it's also a large importer. Australia is counter-seasonal to India. India has never seen Australia to grow crops for itself. For example, India has a huge market, in things beyond the wine, meat, and other spaces of coal. Why hasn't Australia looked at it for that perspective? So that's some honest, blunt inputs, man.
No, it's really, it's so true, Gitesh. I think, again, as I emphasized before, you're ideally positioned to really speak frankly about that, because you know both markets so well, so intimately. And, I know that what that whole scenario is about, what's needed and how to do it. And that leads me to one of the things that, I know that it's something I want to bring up, and I know you're a bit humble about this, but you're writing an amazing book that is a real important time. The timing's never been so important as we've just discussed, and why it is so important. So tell us about the book, and why you created it, I know you're passionate about it, but why everyone should read that and get their head around how they can actually succeed in this market.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yes, it's been a desire for as long as I can remember to write a book and be an author, and I just thought, why not? I put my commonsensical feel to it and put it out there as a handy book. It's not a book of statistics. It's not a book of why India. There's fabulous report by the DFAT written by Bharadwaj. There are reports from Indian perspective and other countries. So I'm not going to say why India. It's been answered before. There's enough data out there that will tell you why India. But what I'm trying to answer in this book is how India. When to do India, how to do India, what could be your challenges? Are you looking at it as a collaborator or just another order in your export book? Are you looking at potential of amplifying your own growth, leveraging India? The intention is, to answer the why. There are books, there are reports. The answer to how, you need to have someone who sees it from the ground here on the, what you call granularity of being on the ground. How you can, why do you want to go to India in the first place? What's the market stage of your product and service? Are you the first? If not, then what are you going to be differentiating yourself with? Have you spoken to others who have done this? Who do you want to engage with? What's your long-term plan? How do you qualify your consumers in India? What's your long-term roadmap? Have you understood India? What do you want from it? What's your management's view? You could be an export manager, but what's your management's view? Are you looking at India as a hub? What are cultural nuances in terms of time, distance, different states? When a no is a no, a yes is a yes, pleasantries, business etiquettes, what are the decision-making timelines? So I'm trying to bring those answers in a small, handy book. You can buy it on an airport, just download from Amazon and read it on a flight to India. And it's, I hope to give someone a viewpoint from someone's eyes on the ground. So hopefully when they read it, even the conversational style that I'm writing in is like I'm talking to you as a friend, as someone who wants to guide you, as someone who wants to understand you, and someone who wants to find you an alignment. That's the intention.
No, that's wonderful. I really look forward to the chance to read it, Gitesh, because I think that, in all my years of international trade and working on supply chains and so forth, we know, and you and I have discussed this offline many times, the nuances in India are so different to any other market in the world. And by having these type of insights that your book can offer, it's not just a great read, but it actually will save time and money. So it's actually going to be able to help companies avoid costly mistakes, do better at the way that they want to build those relationships and partnerships, and really look strategically and with some common sense and logic about how they can work with people like yourself to really get that success on the ground. And it's why make mistakes yourself when you can actually learn from others and learn from experts. And I think India is one of those markets that to go into that market without the expertise is really doing yourself a massive disservice. So I think that this book is a great eye-opener. It's going to be something that, as I said, it'll be a real benefit to so many companies here in Australia and other markets that, for that matter as well, who see now India, the importance of it. As you said before, COVID has really shaken up global supply chains, diversification, and India is primed to really take up a major amount of opportunities. So congratulations on the book, and as I said, I'm looking forward to reading that once it's released. So Gitesh, I wanted to ask you as a wrap up, And I mean, we really, and I personally really love the passion that you bring with all our conversations around trade, investment opportunities, and even the cultural growth between those two markets. What's so exciting I mean, we've talked about the key, let's say, common commodities and so forth, but what's exciting for you about the future between the two markets?
Thank you, Lawrence. I once again reiterate, I'm very excited that this is a fabulous time between the two countries. They will have some sort of a draft agreement by December or by Christmas, and they are looking at a full-fledged free trade agreement by next year, December. So obviously there's aggression. It's like a game of T20, as Minister Tehan said. They want to make it happen fast. And I was trying to echo a message that, suddenly, it's not that suddenly India and Australia have realized that they need to work together in technology or defense or critical areas. I mean, China has changed the tone and tenor of this relationship. But what I'm excited about, and this has happened because in my recent consulting, especially the Golden Bridge Advisory that we are setting up in Sydney and Melbourne, we're looking at scale-ups. We're looking at companies that have revenue, clients, innovation, but an international mindset who want to scale up. I find the tech arena is interspreading itself in all divisions of the world, whether it's education, food, renewables, cybersecurity, anything from IoT to blockchain. And India is really taking some leaps of faith. And I find two things here. One is possibility to collaborate, and number two, money, and number three, market. So that's very exciting for me. So tech partnerships and supply chain partnerships, because I realized in some conversation, there are a lot of companies out there who want to move their dependency from one market, and everyone knows that one, but they're not, they're curious about whether India can deliver. And I want to tell them that India has been, India has been a manufacturing hub for so many companies globally, and it has probably the largest innovation development centers of almost every Fortune 500 company. So obviously they have brought their best practices, their own demands on quality, and their own measurements of sustainable quality. So it's a question of finding the right suppliers, finding the right partners, and the benefit is India can do smaller customizations, unlike a big container load businesses that you might have. So I'm excited about also the possibility, and I mentioned it in my first at the start of this interview, is in Australia has to find out what are the needs India has in its ambitions in agribusiness, renewables, water, education, life sciences, auto, defense, and aerospace, and what India can offer it as well. See, sometimes you don't have to be an answer provider. You can also learn. So like India can be Australia's collaborator in space. India is way ahead in space. Defense, India has a massive market. Automotive, India has a fabulous ecosystem. Life sciences, India is the lowest cost producer of pharmaceuticals. Can they collaborate there? So I would say it should be a marriage of equal partners, which I can see the intention is, but it has to move away from transactions and not just students and tourists. It has to go beyond. And for that, I urge the corporate businesses in Australia to genuinely build its literacy of India. It's a different market. I almost am selling India, even though I'm an Australian who normally sells Australia to India.
No, I think it's so true, Gitesh. I mean, everything you said there just really resonates with so many companies I speak to, because they have, they've all known that India is a market they need to get into. But I think this whole shake-up globally has put them right into focus, and the new upcoming FTA, I'm sure that's going to be fast-tracked. And now what it needs to do, as you say, they need to take a strategic look, not a transactional look, about how they can grow into India and in a way that is going to expand that whole region, not just the country itself. The country itself is huge in its own right. The opportunities are mind-boggling when you think about just that one market, which is made up of so many of those smaller markets within the States. But it's really exciting times, and it's exciting to have you on the show because, as I said before, the passion's there. This book is going to be such a huge resource for so many companies who are really excited about India, but just need that extra help to navigate how to do it. And I know that once borders open, We're really looking forward to doing some great stuff with you and your team, Gitesh, to really support these companies and really build that bridge between Australia and India. So thanks so much for being on today's show again.
Thank you, Lawrence. Always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure. You're doing a fabulous role yourself, trying to connect Australia with the world. So all power to you, mate.
Thanks, Gitesh. Really appreciate it. Great to see you happy, healthy, and looking forward to seeing you in the flesh, hopefully in the not too distant future. And stay safe, stay well, and we'll look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
Take care.
All the best now.
So you've just heard from Gitesh Agarwal. You can see the passion that oozes out of him about these two markets, and he's so right that the opportunities are really bubbling away. It really just takes the amount of commitment, the right partnership, the right advice to really take advantage of this amazing opportunity between those two countries here in Australia and India. Coming up after the break, we've got a great guest with Lisa Singh, who's the CEO of the Australian India Institute. So stick around after these messages from our sponsors, and we'll see you very soon.
Now is the time to reduce costs and get better service from your logistics partners. We go to market for you. We do all the work, you make all the decisions. First, we review your requirements, customized to your business. Then, we design your tender documents, RFQ and submission templates. Next, we put it out to market, to suitable service providers only. We analyse and score the submissions using a weighted scorecard. We shortlist the best candidates specifically matched to your needs. We invite presentations from the candidates. They compete for your business. You select and enjoy the benefits, including KPIs and SLAs. We offer fixed price programs starting from as little as $5,000. When did you last compare your service providers? Contact us today at the Australian Trade and Logistics Corporation.
Think about the clothes you're wearing, the food you're eating, or even the furniture in your home. There is a story and history associated with every product you've ever bought. Unfortunately, sometimes the workers who make your products are subjected to terrible working conditions, are not treated fairly, or the manufacturing process is harmful to the environment. There are many forms of modern slavery and damaging production methods, but it's up to us, industry leaders and the consumers themselves, to take a stand so that we can contribute to a healthier planet and to changing the lives of everyone involved across the global supply chains for the better. Ethical Trade Alliance enables buyers to make informed choices on all of the products they purchase.
Welcome back, everyone. We've now got the absolute pleasure to be joined by Lisa Singh, who's the Chief Executive Officer at the Australian India Institute. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Lawrence. It's great to join you.
Wonderful. Lisa, before we kick off with a few questions, please tell the viewers about your background, your new role here with the Institute, and some of the great work you've done between Australia and India relations in the past.
Well, look, I'm really pleased to be the new Chief Executive Officer at the Australia India Institute. Of course, the Institute is the leading centre in Australia that is advancing the Australia-India bilateral relationship. It does that through various means in terms of research and policy development, but it is such an important institute for the Australian architecture in terms of India. So really pleased to be in the role. Prior to this role, of course, I was in the Australian Parliament for both state and federal for around 12 years. And look, my time in the Australian Senate is what really cemented my engagement in the Australia-India bilateral relationship. finding myself as the first person of Indian origin in the Australian Parliament really did capture the imagination of the Indian diaspora in Australia. And I engaged with the Indian diaspora on a range of levels. And that, of course, included the business community here in Australia. We have a burgeoning Indian diaspora in Australia that's continuing to grow and, made up of a range of professionals and business people that are contributing massively to Australia's economy. So I've had the pleasure of connecting with them over many a year. And I want to really see the Australia-India relationship really grow into the future. I'm very passionate about India and our relationship to it. And I'm very excited in this new role to play that pivotal role in helping.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. And yeah, I can see that passion. And I think so many people who know you and I've spoken to can definitely vouch for that. So the work that you're doing to grow those ties is really phenomenal over the years. And congratulations on the new role recently. We've already sort of answered this in a way, but, Australia, we should be already deepening the relationship with India. What are the ways that you think that we can go about it? Not just from, I know we've got the FTA discussions, all that sort of thing going on, but what are the sort of ways that you think that there are other ways we can grow those relationships?
Well, look, if you look at Australia and India, just through an economic perspective, Australia has had this unprecedented stretch of economic growth for the last 30 years. But at the same time, India also has, put in place economic reforms that have enabled trade liberalisation and its entry really into the global economy. So since, those 30 years have passed, there's clearly been a lot of complementarity between Australia's economic stability, India's rapid economic growth, that should have led to Australia and India being really strong partners in terms of their trade relations. But if you look at it, whilst I think India's our 7th largest trading partner, for a country that has the fastest growing economy with enormous potential, it really should be much higher than that. So I think this is where our economic relationship with India needs to be a really long-term story. It needs to be something that has a lot more effort that is brought into it. And I think we're starting to see some of that effort play out at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's definitely a lot more focus now on India relations, and I think that it is well overdue. I totally agree with that. I think it's such an amazing economy, but a country and the cultural ties going back to colonialism, the cricket, the curries, all those type of stuff. There's so many great ways that Australia and India should be further along than they are when it comes to economic ties. And that leads to my next question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lisa. I was just going to ask about how should and can Australia diversify, our economy, broaden those links, not just with India, but the Indo-Pacific region. What do you think? What else can we do to broaden those and diversify those type of ties?
Well, look, I think we need to look beyond the sorts of commodities that we're exporting to India currently. At the moment, we're very much focused in coal and LNG. But clearly education is a major export market for Australia to India. You've got a population in India that's nearly 50%, I think, under the age of 25, a really youthful population that will require skills and education into the future. And that's where, I think at the moment, even education is Australia's largest service export to India. Valued at some $6 billion. So such an important role that we can play as a nation through our university sector, our skills sector, and ensuring we provide that platform. But I think there's a range of areas of diversification in terms of, looking at other sectors. And that's where the India economic strategy, that's the Australian government's sort of blueprint, provides a range of priority sectors, agribusiness, tourism, energy, health, infrastructure, sports, science. There's so many areas we can start to diversify in terms of our trading relationship with India. That is crucially important. But of course, all of that has to be done within a sort of context of the Indo-Pacific region that both Australia and India find themselves in. And I think it's suffice to say that both countries share a commitment to supporting a really strong and resilient regional architecture. And that's where ASEAN comes in. ASEAN's really at the centre of that. Both Australia and India have agreed to continue to work closely with ASEAN, as well as, through a range of other sort of regional groupings and mechanisms that are there, like the East Asia Summit and Indian Ocean Naval Symposiums. There's a range of things going on. I think also you've seen that both sides have committed to continue to work together in those sorts of trilateral meetings, including Japan, for example, or Indonesia, particularly around, COVID-19 and the outcomes that are needed to ensure that the whole Indo-Pacific region is vaccinated, and the role that India is playing with that manufacturing and production of COVID vaccines. Yeah. I think recently we had the Quad meeting elevated to the leadership level, and that's shown again the commitment of 4 countries to the Indo-Pacific region, beyond just the security relationship, but also going into that economic side, looking at climate change, looking at critical technologies, and also the importance, of course, of rolling out those vaccines.
Yeah, wonderful. I think, as you say, the Tri-Nations, the Quad, the whole region is, feels like there's a whole shifting landscape going on globally, not just around that, but I think that COVID has been a bit of a spike in pushing those things along and restructuring some of these landscapes. And with that regard, the 2035 roadmap, I mean, it's got a whole future engagement sort of mapped out. COVID's definitely, I'm sure, has impacted that. So how are those sort of the impacts? Are they sort of delayed, or do you think we can stay on track with those sort of roadmaps?
Well, you're right. That 2035 roadmap, the IES strategy, as it's known, is such an important body of work that really is the comprehensive blueprint to drive the Australia-India relationship forward. But it was written before the COVID-19 pandemic. So some sort of review or update of the priority sectors and priority recommendations outlined in the IES, I think, is definitely needed to understand, what should be the focus in a post-pandemic Indo-Pacific region. And on top of that, of course, since that blueprint was launched, India itself has released its own Australia economic strategy, the first of its kind for India. So that gives a lot of food for thought for Australia to respond to what India sees as the priorities for the relationship. And I think that's a really important point. We're looking at, what India means for Australia, but I think at the same time, we need to see what Australia means for India. And that's really important going forward. So look, I understand government is currently working on an update of the Australia's India economic strategy to 2035. I think when we see the update of that strategy document, that will very much guide and improve the way we go about economic relations with India into the future. But of course, having said that, there is already so much going on. And I think, the recent meeting by Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal with our own Australian Trade and Tourism and Investment Minister Dan Tehan shows that they've agreed, both Australia and India, to really speed up trade negotiations with the aim of reaching an early harvest agreement by Christmas, apparently. Yeah,
that's the plan. I read that as well, is that they want to have that first sign off by December or by the end of the year. So yeah, I hope that, we all hope that comes about, and there's really exciting times between the two countries. I think that there's a lot of opportunities, and as you say, the energy that you find in India is just unlike any other place in the world. It's just that the youthful creativity, the smarts over there. I think Australia and India share so many common values and traits, so it's really exciting to see them finally starting to get these opportunities off the ground. So thanks so much, Lisa. It's been absolute great to have you on the show. Absolute pleasure. We're looking forward to seeing all the great work you'll do with the Institute, and hopefully we can participate in some other collaborations with Import Export TV and the Institute in the future.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thanks, Lisa. All the best. Take care.
Thanks.
So,
Bye.
bye. So you've just heard from Lisa Singh, the Chief Executive Officer at the Australia-India Institute. That wraps up today's episode, which is all about the incredible opportunities between Australia and India. As you've heard from all three of our guests, there are some really exciting times ahead, really great opportunities that need to be taken on both sides, both from India and here in Australia. So thank you for joining us on another fantastic episode of Trade Australia. Coming up in a week after this episode, it's all Diwali. So happy Diwali to all of our Indian viewers from all of us here at Import Export TV and Trade Australia. Take care. Bye for now. Welcome back, Melbourne. After 18 months of no events, the Australian Trade Logistics Corporation are bringing you an amazing way to cap off 2021. We're here at the Pollywoodside, Melbourne's most famous cargo ship of all, and on the 25th November, Thursday night at 6 p.m, we're going to celebrate all things that we've been missing out on, supply chain, logistics, all the movers and shakers will be here, and we're going to launch the 2022 calendar of ATLC events.
That's right, Lawrence. It's time to have a drink or two and loosen up a little bit and be seen by Import Export TV, the exclusive media partner of the event. So grab your opportunity and don't miss out on being seen.
Get your tickets today and we'll see you all here 25th of November, Thursday night, and we'll have a celebration like no other. See you there.
See you there.